Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Golden Key Design. This week we'll be starting the bedroom renovation, and first up on our list is removing this popcorn ceiling. Alright, so here's some of the tools you're going to need to start this project. First up is a sprayer. I have a pump sprayer here, but you can also just use a handheld sprayer, that'll work just fine. Next up we have a drywall knife or some sort of scraper that you can scrape the ceiling with. This is a 6-inch flex knife. They also make specific popcorn ceiling scrapers that have a garbage bag to collect the dust underneath. I haven't used this one before, so I'm going to see how I like it and let you guys know. Also, popcorn removal tends to be pretty messy, so you may want to put some tarp down or something on the floor to catch all the dust. In my case, I'm going to be tearing out this carpet anyway, so I'm just going to let it fall and roll it up with the carpet and make it easier. I'm going to start by removing this ceiling fan so I can get around it and scrape the ceiling a little bit more easily.
And before doing any electrical work, make sure to shut off the power at your circuit breaker.
I want to make one other note. A lot of popcorn ceilings used to contain asbestos, so you probably want to get yours tested before you get started. Asbestos was outlawed in 1977 across the US, so if your house was built after that, it's less likely to contain asbestos. However, a lot of products were still being used even after that date, so you probably just want to get yours tested just to be safe. To get it tested, you can buy a kit on Amazon or at a big box store and send it to a lab, and they'll respond with the results via email. I got mine tested and it's 100% asbestos free. However, I'm still going to wear a mask even so because this stuff is messy and it gets a lot of dust particles in the air. Now, my ceiling is painted. If yours is unpainted, you're in luck. It's a lot easier to do an unpainted versus painted popcorn ceiling. The key here is you're going to add water to the ceiling to soften up the popcorn material, and then you can scrape it away. Painted popcorn ceilings are most likely going to be painted with latex paint, which is basically a waterproof seal over across the entire surface. So in order to get that water to penetrate, you're going to want to knock the surface down just a little bit to create basically holes for the water to go into to loosen up that popcorn material. So before we even start using water, I'm going to take my scraper and just scrape off a little bit, not digging into the drywall, but just scraping off enough for the seal of that latex paint to be broken. And again, I'm going to wear a mask when I do this.
And so here you can see the difference between the scraped and unscraped sections of the popcorn ceiling. And here's what it looks like before zoomed in, and here's what it looks like after, just to give you a bit more detail.
Alright, so in this initial knockdown phase before we spray any water, I've realized that I've already come up with a better technique. Instead of scraping like this away from you, it's a lot easier to start in a corner and point it in this direction and then drag it like this instead of going like that. And in this direction it'll still break down the popcorn and break that latex seal so you can get water up there, and it won't create any nicks in the drywall potentially underneath the popcorn. If you go this way, you can potentially nick it, and it's a lot more difficult. Versus this way, you just drag it across and you can keep going. It's a lot faster.
And I just wanted to show you this section in real time because you can really see just how much dust this creates, and this is just the beginning.
Alright, so we just finished scraping the ceiling. It's a bit hard to tell on camera, but basically you're just removing that latex paint and you can see a little bit of the brown drywall and it's a little bit off-white, so you can definitely tell a difference when you've covered the whole surface. So next up, now it's time to wet the surface down. Here we're going to be using this pump. It's best to use hot water if you can, but cold water will still work. And basically you want to get it pretty dang wet, more wet than you think. And you're just going to keep spraying. It's good to let it soak in for a little bit, maybe 5 or so minutes. Let it soak into the material before you start scraping. I'm going to work in little sections, probably just like 3 to 4 feet by 3 to 4 feet, and work my way around the room. I might start in the closet since it's less seen. In case there's any screw-ups, I can at least learn my lessons in there before doing the main bedroom area. I'm going to start with the 6-inch scraper and just see how that fares, and if it's not working, I can always try this specific popcorn scraper. However, because I'm going to be rolling up this carpet and I don't really care about all the dust and stuff that's going to be falling, I'm not really inclined to use that much. That specifically if you want to try and catch it all. Especially if your ceiling's not painted, I think it's best to use a specific popcorn ceiling scraper so you can catch all that. But in my case, I don't think I need to use it. So I'm just going to use the 6-inch scraper to start. Let's get to it. That was better. There we go.
And so again, you're going to want to fill this with as hot of water as you can get, as it'll help to loosen up the material a lot faster. And as I stated, I started in the closet just to learn my technique and make sure everything was going correctly before starting in the main room. So if you can, I would try and start in an inconspicuous spot just to learn and make sure you're doing it properly. So here you can see I'm starting to spray my first section. I made sure to let it sit for about 5 minutes before starting to scrape. Then it was time to scrape away, and it actually came off a lot easier than I was expecting. I think each popcorn ceiling is going to be a little bit different, but as long as you put enough water on and you let it sit for long enough, it should come off relatively easily. I would make sure to get at least a 6-inch drywall knife to do this process, if not bigger, because it's going to take a long time to go across the entire ceiling. Also, as you can see, I'm making sure to keep the knife at a pretty steep angle. That way, as you scrape it off, you're less likely to nick the drywall and it comes off a lot easier too. And here's a telltale sign that it's a painted popcorn ceiling. As you can see, it's kind of coming off in strips that are slightly attached to one another. That's the latex paint holding all the particles together in one piece. If it's not painted, this is going to come off a lot more dusty and a lot more particles on your floor.
Alright, so that's a wrap on the popcorn ceiling removal. One thing to note is that when you get up against your walls, you gotta be careful to make sure you go all the way up against the wall and clean out that joint where the two ceiling and wall meet. Because things can gunk up in there and you wanna make sure you fully clear it out. It'll make your life a lot easier when you go to paint. And so as you saw, there's a ton of stuff all over the floor. If you're not planning on removing your carpet or your flooring, you definitely want to put some tarp down or something. In this case, I'm going to be removing that, but that'll be in an upcoming video. And there's a few little nicks here and there that I'll patch up with just some compound. And then after that, I will prime and paint. And again, that'll be in an upcoming video. But today's episode is mainly just focused on how you get rid of it. And future episodes will cover more topics. But I hope you guys learned something along the way. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments and I'd be happy to answer them. And as always, thanks for watching and happy building. See you next week. Bye.
And I just wanted to add that this is just episode 1 of this bedroom renovation series, and we got a ton more fun DIY projects lined up, including a concrete accent wall, a custom headboard, as well as a floating bed, and 2 custom side tables, as well as a complete closet renovation. So stay tuned and get subscribed as we got lots more coming your way.